What's up YouTube? Capital G here doing a tech video, and this time we are talking about Invader of Darkness and asking how viable can this card be. Now I really went outside the box for this one, and Invader of Darkness is it's a super old card. I believe it came out in IOC, like Invasion of Chaos, and it was like all the way back then it was kind of known as the other secret rare because I don't know if you guys remember this, but it used to be way back in the original Yu-Gi-Oh series. The booster sets only had two secret rares. You'd have the secret rare that you got in the 24 pack boxes. Usually that was like the real good, or that was the expensive secret, and then you had the other secret that came in the 36 boxes. A lot of times both of them were good. Like if you look at Pharaoh's Servant, they had Genzo as the 24 and then Imperial Order as the 36, and Imperial Order was dirt cheap and ended up being way better than Genzo, but Genzo at the time was better. But long story short, this was the other secret rare that was counterpart to Chaos Emperor Dragon. So this is the one that nobody really wanted. Everybody wanted Chaos Emperor Dragon, but I look at this card right now, and if you don't know what the card does, it's one line of text. Even I can read it. It says your opponent cannot activate quick play spell cards, and the stat line on this card is really good. 2900, 2500 for a level 8 is really good. I mean, those are pretty good stats. In today's game, you're going to probably have to special summon to get over this. I like the fact that it has super high defense, so it gives it at least a resistance to something like Mirror Conductor, because a lot of times when people put high attack monsters with low defense, people like to go Mirror Conductor and try and run it over with another monster like Joker or something like that. Especially if it's a monster that's stopping you from special summoning or doing something that they really want to do. But like I looked around the meta and I was like, there are actually a lot of quick plays that are seeing a lot of play right now. Like if you just looked at Pepe, I mean, Pepe run a lot of quick plays. They've got Wavering Eyes in there. They're going to run Draco Face Off as predicted. This card has pretty much replaced Brilliant Fusion. A lot of times in games 2 and 3, if they're not maining Twin Twisters, they'll side it in. You look at the Monarch deck that's about to be released. Every Monarch deck that I've ever seen is running 3 copies of Monarch Stormforth, and this is not a card that you side out. So they're probably going to have that. And, you usually think, oh, well, Cap, it's a level 8. It's kind of hard to summon. I do understand, like, it kind of sucks that it's level 8 and not level 7 because there are a lot of pendulum scales that are 8s, right? Like, I think Dragon Pit's an 8. And I think Pendulum Sorcerer is an 8. And if this guy was 7, you could Pendulum summon it and it would be like, whoa, it'd be really easy to summon. Make sure your opponent can't use a lot of those quick plays on you. But you can obviously tribute summon this. A deck like Monarchs, getting 2 monsters on the field is really not that hard. You can just summon Edia, she summons something else, and then bam, you get your extra summon if you have Eidos, or you can use something like Stormforth, you can use Prime. And what I like about this card is, it's a floodgate, but it only locks your opponent out. Like, you can activate all the quick plays you want, so you can still Wavering Eyes your opponent. They just can't Wavering Eyes you. And I look at some of the other quick plays that are seeing like play around the format. I'm not saying that you should side. Actually, we forgot about Emergency Teleport. That should be up here. I was gonna say I don't know that you should side this in against Cosmos, but obviously Emergency Teleport. If you happen to run against heroes, I mean, I don't know how they're gonna summon any mass heroes if they can't use any of their change cards. They can't use Mass Change 1, 2, they can't use Form Change, then they pretty much won't be able to summon any of the mass heroes. Magispectors, that's like a niche matchup. Maybe you don't consider it to be that relevant of a deck that you should side for. They don't run so many copies of Cyclone, but I have seen a lot of the newer Magispector builds are definitely running like, 2 copies, maybe even 3 copies of Sonic, because like this card actually solves a lot of problems. People side that Magical Spring against Pendulum decks, so that could be even more cards that they can't use against you. And Forbidden Chalice is starting to become kind of popular because it means against those monsters that are kind of like the super stun monsters, the Vanities and the Majesties and the Cyber Dragon Infinities, Abyss Dweller. If you're running Mermail and somebody makes that against you, you can kind of do whatever the hell you want. And then when your opponent tries to chain that monster, or if it's a continuous, you just throw the Forbidden Chalice at it. But if they try and chain it, like if it's an Abyss Dweller or a Cyber Dragon Infinity, then you just activate Chalice on it and you negate its effect. So this card is actually seeing a lot of play. But I just look at this guy and I'm like, it's not actually that hard to summon. You know, Pendulum decks routinely Pendulum 4 cards at once, and sometimes they'll blow up their own cards with Pendulum Sorcerer, and you know, maybe they might trigger a plush fire, so that gets you even more summons. So if you normal summon this in the mirror match, okay, your opponent can't Wavering Eyes, they can't Draco Face Off, they can't Twin Twister your back row, they can't Twin Twister your Scales, they can't use Mystical Space Typhoon if they decide to play that instead of Twin Twister, you know. And actually, somebody did this against me. Like, we're talking about ways to summon this guy. I was playing against Infernoids, and it was an OCG build, and he activated Reasoning, and I was like, oh, that's cool. No, he didn't Reasoning. He Monster Gated into it. And I was like, man, this card's actually kind of hard. And I had a Stormforth in my hand, and I was like, wow, that kind of sucks. Like, this card is actually pretty hard to get over. Now, I ended up losing that because he had he flipped over Mask of Restrict on top of that, but like, even if I didn't have the Mask of Restrict, I pretty much would have had to have like Idia to try and get over this card, because my Stormforth was essentially dead, and I didn't have any monsters on board. So, you know, this card is just food for thought, guys. I'm not saying that this is the tits in every matchup, but like, it's very usable against Performers and Pals. It's pretty decent against heroes. If you can keep them from going into XC plays, you lock them out of all of their fusions, essentially, unless they're running like Poly or, you know, like Miracle Fusion or anything like that. But most people don't play that. And then again, it's really good in a deck like Monarchs just for protecting your board, because if you summon this turn 1 against a deck like Pepe with Dominion, I mean, we know that generally the number one out that they want to use for Domain. The number one out that they want to use for Domain is like Twin Twisters. Can't do that, but you get additional cards because no Draco Face Off, no Wavering Eyes, so you can't really accelerate. You know, they can't accelerate the way that they want to play. So you guys let me know. I think this is kind of like a little tech option just to play around with. The card is dirt cheap too. Even the ILC versions that are secret rare, they're like $1 or anything like that. And then also, just a fun fact, this guy he has a very important part of the lore. Like, he's a very important character in the lore with Marauding Captain and MegaCapitalG, I think his name is. You guys know the little reptile dude. Yeah, he's actually in multiple cards with these guys. I can't say for sure he ends up getting killed, but he ends up getting defeated, though. But it's really actually an interesting storyline if you guys want to look into that, too. So let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching, as always.